Welcome to this week's episode of Pixel Peak. We're glad you can make it.
It's been an eventful few weeks, and we're continuing the trend with a new game reviewer.
Oh, you're talking about Tanner, right?
Yeah, well, I hear he's only here as a game reviewer for this episode. At least he's reviewing Sayonara Wild Hearts. I've seen that game advertised a lot recently, and I'm kind of curious about it.
Me too, but I'm more curious about next week's game review. Bianca is making her glorious return next week to give her thoughts on a pretty big game.
A lot of big games are in this week's news, but I don't think that is one of them. Fallout First is Bethesda's latest attempt to make as much money as possible off of Fallout 76 players, and man are they angry.
The Last of Us Part 2 getting delayed was also pretty upsetting news, and we have the scoop on why Naughty Dog is pushing back perhaps their most anticipated title.
I bet 2K wishes they could have pushed back their release of WWE 2K20. That game turned out to be a wonderful disaster, and we'll be giving you the story behind that game too.
Our Xbox analyst, Bobby Padgett, is finally making his debut with some thoughts on Mike Ybarra's move from Xbox Live to Blizzard Entertainment in this week's analysis.
There's a lot to cover this week, so let's get started. I'm Sydney Thompson.
And I'm Kristen Lawrence, and we hope you enjoy your stay here on Pixel Peak.
Electronic Arts hinted this week that it is looking into bringing back licensed college sports games into its sports video game lineup if a new U.S. law is passed in more states. Currently, the National Collegiate Athletic Association bars college athletes from making any money off their college careers. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, recently signed a bill that will allow players to hire agents and secure endorsement deals, contrary to the NCAA's ruling. This law will go into action in 2023. But is only in effect for California. However, the New York Times reports that several states also agree that college athletes should be compensated for playing, especially since the college sports industry has made about $14 billion in the past year alone. This leads us back to EA, as they see this new law as an opportunity to revive their long-dead NCAA series. From 1993 to 2013, EA published yearly football and basketball-related titles with NCAA. The partnership was terminated, however, after a $60 million lawsuit was filed by former student athletes for using their names and likeness without compensation. EA CEO Andrew Wilson is optimistic, even stating that he would jump for the opportunity to resume publishing video games around collegiate sports. Earlier today, the NCAA announced that it would be allowing college athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness, a shift that all but greenlights EA to start publishing college sports games once again.
Fallout 76 is back in the news again this week, and like most Fallout 76 news, it doesn't look good for Bethesda. Earlier this week, Bethesda launched Fallout First, a premium subscription service for Fallout 76 players. The subscription service costs $13 a month, or $100 a year. What do Fallout 76 players get for $100 a year, you ask? Players who decide to purchase the subscription will get access to private servers that aren't really private, and unlimited carrying capacity that inexplicably makes items disappear from players' inventory, some cosmetics, and a stipend of in-game currency awarded each month. A representative from Bethesda Game Studios reached out to Polygon concerning subscribers losing loot in their scrap boxes and said that resolving this issue is their top priority. Fans of Fallout 76 are vocally upset over the tone-deaf launch of Fallout First. Many features included in the subscription are features fans have been asking for since the game's announcement. To express their frustration with Bethesda, one fan even managed to snag the domain name falloutfirst.com and published a parody website in the style of Bethesda's own website. The website describes Fallout First as a yearly cash burning pile and a 1-month Waste Your Money membership, among other things that are less TV friendly. Ever since Fallout 76's initial release in October of 2018, the game has had a never-ending string of scandals. Between deceptive marketing of the game's Power Armor Edition, a data breach, and moldy merchandise, Fallout 76 can't seem to stay out of the spotlight.
In a lawsuit filed in California last week, Rainbow Six Siege developer Ubisoft is suing cheat provider Misusoft. Ubisoft claims that Misusoft has sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cheating software that increases weapon damage, expands a player's field of vision, and shows hidden enemies, among other things. Misusoft's website proudly boasts itself of being a leading cheat provider focused on providing powerful but user-friendly software, and is dead set on keeping cheat undetected. The owner of the website, a minor identified as JVL, charged cheaters $13 a day or $77 a month to use the cheating software. Ubisoft claims that the company has spent immense amounts of time and money to combat the damage that the cheating software has caused. Ultimately, Ubisoft is looking to shut down the website and obtain $25,000 for each use of the cheating software that breached Rainbow Six Siege's terms of use and code of conduct. Ubisoft has long been battling cheaters in Crusade, cracking down on cheaters by issuing permanent bans to cheaters, even for first-time offenders. Earlier this year, the company also issued suspensions to cheaters that attempted to create chat lag for other players in the game. This court case is still ongoing, but we'll keep you updated if there are any further developments.
The Last of Us 2, the long-awaited sequel to the hit 2013 game, has been delayed. The original release was initially February 21st, 2020, but has now been moved back to 3 months to May 29th. The delay came as a big surprise for fans with the game being so close to release. The game director of The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann, states that the reason for the delay is that developers simply didn't have enough time to bring the entire game up to a level of polish we would call Naughty Dog quality. At this point, we were faced with two options: compromise parts of the game or get more time. We went with the latter, and this new release date allows us to finish everything to our level of satisfaction while also reducing stress on the team. Druckmann also expressed that the development team really hate to disappoint fans and they are sorry for the delay. The Last of Us 2 isn't the only game being delayed this week. Ubisoft announced the delay of 3 games after releasing less than phenomenal sales numbers for the year. Watch Dogs Legion, Gods and Monsters, and Rainbow Six Siege are among the games that are being pushed back. Ubisoft recently cut its projected net bookings for the year to March 2020 by more than a third to $1.6 billion and slashed its operating profit forecast from $530 million to as low as $22 million. Ubisoft blames this expense cut to 2 underperforming games, causing the company to delay the 3 games into the next financial year. Yves Guillemot expressed in a press release that while Ubisoft isn't happy with the decision to cut expenses and delay games, they do believe that it will be the best for them in the long run.
PlayStation has begun giving refunds for WWE 2K20 after the game received backlash by fans for several glitches and bugs. The most recent release of the annual wrestling franchise began trending on social media shortly after release, with fans sharing footage of the game. There were broken game features, graphical bugs that rivaled Assassin's Creed Unity, and missing items from the collector's editions. Fans even took to Twitter to start #FixWWE2K20 to get the attention of the developer, 2K. 2K support responded during the backlash to say, "We're receiving more tickets than normal. Rest assured, we're doing everything we can to get your case. Thanks for your patience." In August of this year, the developer behind WWE 2K, Yuke's, left the franchise after 20 years of making licensed wrestling games. Visual Concepts, who worked with Yuke's since 2014, took over the franchise after Yuke's announced their departure from the series. There was no comment by Yuke's after the decision was announced, but it did come as a surprise considering how close to launch 2K20 was at the time. However, in May, Hiromi Furuta, The senior vice president and producer said Yuke's was establishing a second team to work on a new wrestling game in order to add competition internally. Until the game is patched, we can at least enjoy the hilarity of WWE 2K20's glitches.
Earlier this week, Redditors in the Steam subreddit found several hints that EA might be returning to Steam. This comes 8 years after EA launched Origin and moved all of its PC sales in-house. The largest hint came on October 22nd, when a test application was discovered that would allow players to purchase games from Steam, but launch them through Origin. However, the clues point at older games such as The Saboteur. The theory gained substantial traction once EA tweeted an image of a mug, but behind the mug was a PC. The color of the mug was also black with a blue accent color, similar to that of Steam. While this clue may not hold as much weight as the test application that was found, Steam users have latched onto the image meaning something. EA is currently the largest publisher of licensed video games, and there is a possibility that the company would not want to give Valve 30% of the profit for current or upcoming games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Origin launched in 2011, and when it did, EA took Crysis 2 off Steam, which upset Steam users similar to Epic Games Store exclusives that have released in the past year. Since the launch of Battlefield 3 on Origin in 2011, every EA-published PC game has been exclusive to Origin. In an interesting turn of events earlier today, EA indeed confirmed that they would be making their return back to Steam. On November 15th, the publisher will mark its return to Steam with the release of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, with more games including Apex Legends, The Sims 4, and Battlefield 5 to follow in coming months. That's all for this week's news. Now over to producer and mobile analyst Tanner Mizelle, who's bringing us a mobile edition of this week's game review.
Welcome to this week's game review. I'm producer and mobile analyst Tanner Mizelle. Bianca is still working on a pretty big game, so I'm filling in for the time being. Over the past couple of days, I've been riding motorcycles, undergoing magical girl transformations, and mending broken hearts, all right on my phone. After all, I am the Pixel Peak mobile analyst. Let's see if the forefront of Apple Arcade's marketing is really all that special in this review of Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Not long ago, in a town much like yours, there was a young woman who was very happy.
Sayonara Wild Hearts greets us with the soothing voice of Queen Latifah, reciting a poem that serves as a prologue for the game's story. It follows a woman experiencing heartbreak, where people within this woman's life are represented by tarot cards. The first level briefly shows the broken-hearted woman reading in her room before a pink and cyan butterfly plucks her out of it and throws her on a speeding highway. This is where the player can take control. No tutorial, no controls flashing on screen, it's completely intuitive. On iPhone and iPad, you slide your finger where you want the protagonist to go. At this point, the game starts slowly introducing the rest of the mechanics of the game over the next few levels, with the first level introducing ramps and collectibles. Hearts increase in value the more you collect in succession, so the more hearts you collect while not crashing will result in a higher end level score. Although it's not important to the plot to do anything except get through each level, there are unlockables for getting gold ranks on all of the stages for completionists like myself out there. By the start of the second level, it becomes clear that the game's soundtrack is not simply backdrop to what is happening on screen. Instead, the game is built around the music, with rhythmic timing and level design to complement the flow of each song. Most of the soundtrack is within the electro-pop genre, with a lot of synth and soft female vocals, and it lends well to the theme of the game with its vibrant colors and all-female cast. Levels are defined by several different tarot card titles, with 5 of them indicating the game's bosses: the Devil, the Lovers, the Moon, the Hermit, and Death. With each boss, more mechanics get introduced, like quick time events where you tap the screen, firing projectiles from the side of your motorcycle by touching and holding, or aiming a bow and arrow to chain projectile attacks. Although these additional mechanics make the game more complex, none of the levels are particularly difficult, and there are plenty of checkpoints, all with no load times. This makes the game around an hour long, or the length of the 23-track album that this game is visualizing. For those who like checklists, Sayonara Wild Hearts also offers challenges that take the form of zodiac riddles. They're fairly specific, so you won't get them while running through the game normally, but decoding them adds a little extra fun and satisfaction when completing them. There are also 2 extra modes, where you run through every level without menu interruptions, with either 1 life or unlimited lives. I wasn't really expecting much replayability when I picked up the game, but I'm glad to see more excuses to return to it on bus rides or in between meetings. The symbolism in the plot is never addressed directly, but based on visual context clues and poetic readings, Sayonara Wild Hearts tells the story of a woman forgiving but not forgetting her past partners either in friendship or romance. It tells a wholesome message focused on self-care and discovery, and does so in an extremely stylish and entertaining way. The only bone I have to pick with Sayonara Wild Hearts is the controls. Quick movements don't make the player move quickly. Instead, steady glides make players cover the most ground. On smaller screens, it may take several swipes to reach one side of the level to the other, making some levels feel unfair or impossible, even if they aren't with this control scheme. There's an option to change the touch sensitivity option from normal to high, which responds to the rolling of your finger instead of a swipe. But this can go from feeling like there isn't enough control to feeling like every input is overcorrected. I was able to get used to it on my 4-inch phone screen, but I would recommend playing Sayonara Wild Hearts with a controller connected for the most pleasurable experience. The combination of stylish gameplay, an incredible soundtrack, and a compelling story really made a personal impact on me. And even though the controls leave something to be desired, I think Sayonara Wild Hearts is worthy of the Pixel Peak Top of the Mountain award. Whether you're a casual or competitive player, a music or animation fan, or anything in between, this game is a great fit for everyone.
Gold rank.
Sayonara Wild Hearts makes for an amazing game, and an amazing album, too. And although mobile controls can be hard to handle sometimes, it's a great way to pass a few minutes or a few hours. Either way, it's an unforgettable gaming experience with lots of energy and charm. That's all I got for this week's game review, so I'll pass it on over to Laird for this week's analysis.
Xbox is undergoing some major corporate changes. A few weeks ago, longtime Microsoft executive Mike Ibarra announced that he would be stepping down after being with the company for almost 20 years. This week, Ibarra announced that he would be joining Blizzard's corporate team. Here to talk about that with me is about the upcoming changes to Xbox and Blizzard is our Xbox analyst, Bobby Padgett. Thank you for being with me, Bobby.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, what can you tell me about Mike Ibarra and what he's known for at Xbox?
So he's basically the VP for Xbox Live, their crossplay, and their Game Pass divisions, as well as Mixer, the streaming platform.
Okay, and he's been with the company for over 20 years now, and so he's been involved in some pretty big projects.
Yes, I mean, he originally started as like a software engineer before moving up to doing OEM stuff, part of the OEM division at Windows, and then doing Windows 7. Then he became GM for Xbox Live, then became in charge of the Partners Division of Xbox Studios, the in-game developer and publisher, and then finally became VP for Xbox Live, for programming for Xbox Live. Then, before he left the company, corporate VP of Live, Game Pass, Mixer, Crossplay.
So he's done a lot at Xbox during his time there, and now he's moving to Blizzard. What is he supposed to be doing at Blizzard?
So his official title is Executive VP and GM, aka General Manager.
Okay. For a moment, I was thinking Game Master. That would be pretty cool. But anyway, and like, what are the reasons behind this move?
So not much has really been given outside of what he tweeted about when he originally announced he was leaving back during, I believe, our fall break. which was a couple weeks ago, he basically was saying that he's been with Microsoft for 20 years and he was moving on to what he considered the next great adventure.
And so a move like this, especially for an upper-level executive, is a pretty big thing when it comes to software companies like Blizzard or Xbox. So what can we expect for Mike to do after his transition over to Blizzard?
So right now, nothing super immediate because he doesn't start till the 4th, and he said he'd be in attendance at BlizzCon, but anything that he has anything to do with will not be at BlizzCon this year, so his stuff won't be immediate. He mainly focused on like services, like online services, games as a service, which is Xbox's Game Pass, Netflix-style subscription service. So Blizzard may be thinking about adding something like that, similar to them, for like some of their back catalog, like maybe StarCraft or some of World of Warcraft. It could be the online purposes, like I know they recently announced WoW Classic. WoW Classic went up, and there's been some issues with queues and lines trying to get into that. So maybe Ibarra might be there to help iron some of that out.
Yeah, so as you just mentioned, that Blizzard has kind of been in hot water with its fans over the past year or so with the announcement of new games. I know that people were not extremely excited about the new release for the Diablo series.
Yeah.
But do you think that this transition marks a change in tactics for Blizzard when it comes to how they handle online games?
I believe so. I'd hope so. Mainly because that is what Ibarra was known for at Xbox. He was the online service person to go to. That is what he was known for.
And so he made a lot of changes at Xbox, but Ibarra moving over to Blizzard, what's that going to do to Xbox? How are they reacting?
So in terms of how they're reacting, well, they haven't announced a replacement yet, as of 5 days ago, so not sure how that's going. But with Xbox, it's kind of hard to tell because at least as long as I can remember, and as long as I can remember on most research I've done, Xbox hasn't ever not had Ibarra, so future's definitely uncertain. I mean, Xbox Live and Game Pass are still going pretty well from the sales figures, is what I've heard, like 57 million users on Xbox Live, so there's that. But basically, outlook's uncertain.
All right, so it looks like with a major corporate change-up, as well as the upcoming announcement for Project Scarlet, whatever that is going to end up being, it looks like big changes are coming to Xbox and Blizzard.
Yeah.
All right, well, Bobby, thank you for being with me.
Thank you
all
for
right.
having me.
Now, that's all we have for today's analysis, so we're going to head over to Sydney and Kristen to wrap up this week's live show.
And that concludes this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed it.
Wait, aren't we forgetting something?
I don't think so.
It's the week of Halloween and we didn't make any spooky puns. I can hear Bobby and Jean-Luc turning in their graves.
They aren't dead, right?
No, but they'll always be with us in spirit.
Oh no.
Puns aside, we do have something spooky planned for Halloween, and I'm in it. Keep an eye out on Thursday night at 8 p.m. on watchapptv.com, Skybest channels 20 and 1020, Spectrum channel 198, or on App State's campus television channel 23.3.
Also, keep an eye out on our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PixelPeakAppTV. We promise we won't post any jump scares.
And thanks to our crew for making this episode jump scare free. Writers Jalen Curtin and Rebecca Larson, producers Caitlin Halley, Tanner Mizelle, and Michael Annable, and Xbox analysis Bobby Padgett deserve a round of applause.
Thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed your stay here on Pixel Peak.